Good morning. Old Joe here. I'm sitting out on the porch with my coffee, like always. Sun's just starting to peek over those hills. There's a chill in the air this morning. Fall's coming on strong now. And I've been thinking about something that keeps me up at night sometimes. Not often, but sometimes. Money. More specifically, all the stupid things I did with money when I was younger. All the mistakes I made. All the lessons I had to learn the hard way because I was too stubborn or too proud or too ignorant to listen to anyone else. If I could go back and talk to my 30-year-old self, there's so much I'd tell him about money. So much pain I could have saved him. So much stress and worry and sleepless nights. But I can't go back. What I can do is tell you right now, today, before you make the same mistakes I did. Because here's the thing. Money isn't just about numbers in a bank account. It's about peace. It's about freedom. It's about being able to sleep at night without worrying how you're going to pay the electric bill. And most of us, myself included, spend the first half of our lives doing everything wrong, chasing the wrong things, spending on the wrong things, worrying about the wrong things. So today, I'm going to share with you the 5 money rules I had to learn the hard way. And I'm going to tell you the story of the biggest financial mistake I ever made. One that cost me nearly everything. If this helps even one person avoid the pain I went through, it'll be worth it. So settle in. This might take a while, but I promise you, if you stick with me to the end, you will walk away with something that could change your life. Let's get into it. Before I get into the rules, I need to tell you a story because everything I'm about to teach you, I learned from this one mistake. This one moment where I thought I was being smart, being ambitious, being a go-getter, and instead I almost lost everything. I was 37 years old, had a wife, 2 kids, a decent job at the plant that paid about $45,000 a year, which back then was pretty good money. We had a small house, 1 car, weren't rich, but we were getting by. And I was restless. I'd see other guys my age driving new trucks, taking vacations, building bigger houses, and I wanted that. Wanted to give my family more, wanted to prove I was successful. So when my buddy Carl came to me with a business opportunity, I listened. Carl was always coming up with schemes, always had some new idea about how to make money. Most of them went nowhere. But this one sounded different. He wanted to start a construction company, said he had connections, said he knew contractors who'd give us work, said all we needed was to buy some equipment and we'd be making 6 figures within a year. I should have known better. Should have asked more questions. Should have talked to my wife first. But I didn't, because I was thinking about that new truck, about taking my kids to Disney World, about not having to worry about money anymore. So I did something stupid. I took out a second mortgage on a house, $15,000, which might not sound like much now, but in the mid-'80s, that was real money. That was our safety net. That was our emergency fund. That was everything we had. And I gave it to Carl for equipment, for down payment on a truck, for business licenses and insurance and all the things you need to start a construction company. My wife didn't know. I told her it was a bonus from work, told her I'd been saving up, told her it was going to be fine. I lied to her. For the first 3 months, things seemed okay. We got a few small jobs, made a little money, Not much, but enough to keep the dream alive. And then the bottom fell out. Turned out Carl's connections weren't as solid as he'd said. The work dried up, the truck broke down and needed expensive repairs. We couldn't make the payments on the equipment. And then Carl disappeared, just gone. Took what little money we had left in the business account and vanished. Found out later he'd done this before in another state. I was just too stupid to check. So there I was, 37 years old, $15,000 in debt that I couldn't pay, a second mortgage I couldn't afford, no business, no equipment, no partner. And I had to tell my wife. That was the hardest conversation I've ever had in my life. Sitting at the kitchen table, watching her face as I explained what I'd done, watching the trust drain out of her eyes. She didn't yell, didn't scream, just looked at me and said, "How could you do this to us?" And I didn't have an answer. For the next 3 years, we barely survived. I worked double shifts at the plant, picked up weekend work wherever I could find it. My wife got a job cleaning houses. We sold everything that wasn't nailed down: the TV, my tools, her jewelry, anything to make the mortgage payments. There were months we ate rice and beans for dinner every single night because that's all we could afford. Months where I'd lie awake at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, wondering if we were going to lose the house. My kids wore hand-me-downs from their cousins. We couldn't afford new shoes unless the old ones had holes in them. Forget about vacations or birthday parties or any of the normal things kids should have. And every single day, I hated myself for what I'd done to them. It took us nearly 5 years to dig out of that hole. 5 years of working ourselves to the bone. 5 years of stress and fighting and barely holding it together. But we made it, paid off that second mortgage, got back on solid ground. And I learned more about money in those 5 years than I'd learned in the previous 37 years combined. So when I tell you these rules I'm about to share, understand, I didn't learn them from a book. I didn't learn them from some finance guru on TV. I learned them in the dirt, in the struggle, in the pain of nearly losing everything because I was too stupid and too proud to do things right. All right, let's get into it. Rule number 1, never invest money you can't afford to lose. This seems obvious now, but when you're young and ambitious and someone's dangling the promise of easy money in front of you, it's real easy to forget. Here's what I should have understood: that $15,000 wasn't just money. It was our safety net. It was what stood between us and disaster. And I gambled it on something I didn't understand, with someone I didn't really know, in a business I had no experience in. That's not investing. That's just being stupid. Now, I'm not saying you should never take risks. I'm not saying you should never invest in anything. But there's a difference between calculated risk and reckless gambling. A calculated risk is, I've got an extra $1,000 saved up. I've done my research. I understand what I'm getting into. And if I lose this money, it won't destroy my family. Reckless gambling is, I'm going to bet my house on a business I don't understand because someone told me it would work out. You see the difference? Here's a good rule of thumb. Before you invest in anything, a business, stocks, real estate, whatever, ask yourself this question: if I lose every penny of this money, will my family still be okay? If the answer is no, don't do it. I don't care how good the opportunity sounds. I don't care how much you trust the person pitching it. I don't care how sure you are that it's going to work out. If losing that money would put your family in danger, it's not worth it. Your first responsibility is to protect what you have, to make sure your family has a roof over their heads and food on the table. Everything else comes after that. Now, once you've got your foundation solid, once you've got your emergency fund set up, your bills paid, your family taken care of, then you can start thinking about investing. But even then, you only invest what you can afford to lose. Because here's the truth, most investments don't work out. Most businesses fail. Most sure things aren't so sure. And if you're betting money you can't afford to lose, when it doesn't work out, you're not just losing money. You're losing your peace, your security, your family's future. That's too high a price to pay. Rule number 2, lifestyle inflation will kill you. Let me explain what I mean by that. When I was in my 20s, I made about 25,000 a year, and somehow we made it work. We had a little apartment, one car, simple life. Then I got a raise, started making 30,000, then 35, then 40. And every time I got a raise, we upgraded our life. Got a bigger apartment, then bought a house, got a second car, started eating out more, buying nicer things, and you know what happened? Even though I was making more money, we never seemed to have any left over at the end of the month. Because every time my income went up, our spending went up to match it. That's lifestyle inflation, and it's one of the biggest traps you can fall into. See, most people think if I just made a little more money, all my problems would be solved. If I just got that raise, that promotion, that new job, then I'd be able to save. Then I'd be comfortable. But that's not how it works. Because as soon as you make more money, you start spending more money. You move to a nicer neighborhood with higher rent. You buy a nicer car with a bigger payment. You start going out to eat more, buying nicer clothes, taking fancier vacations. And before you know it, you're making twice as much as you used to. But you're still living paycheck to paycheck. I see this all the time. Young people who make good money but have nothing saved because they're spending every penny trying to keep up with some lifestyle they think they're supposed to have. Here's what I wish I'd understood when I was younger. Making more money doesn't make you rich. Keeping more money makes you rich. And the only way to keep more money is to not spend it all just because it's there. When you get a raise, here's what you should do. Pretend you didn't. Keep living the exact same way you were living before. Keep driving the same car. Keep living in the same house. Keep eating the same meals. And take that extra money, every penny of it, and put it somewhere you can easily get to it. Savings account, retirement account, investment account. Doesn't matter where, as long as it's not in your checking account tempting you to spend it. Do that for a few years, and you'll be amazed at how much you've accumulated. But most people don't do that. Most people see extra money and immediately start thinking about what they can buy with it. New furniture, new electronics, new clothes, new car. And then they're stuck because now they've committed to a higher level of spending. And if anything goes wrong, if they lose their job, if they have an unexpected expense, if something breaks, they're in trouble because they don't have any margin, they don't have any breathing room. They're spending everything they make. That's no way to live. Rule number 3, Debt is a prison, and I mean that literally. Debt traps you, limits your options, keeps you from being able to make choices about your own life. When I was deep in debt after that business disaster, I couldn't change jobs even though I hated my job because I needed every penny of that paycheck to make the mortgage payment. I couldn't take risks, couldn't pursue opportunities, couldn't do anything that might jeopardize that steady income. I was trapped. And that's what debt does. It takes away your freedom. Now I understand that some debt is necessary. Most people can't buy a house without a mortgage. Most people can't get an education without student loans. But here's what you need to understand. Every dollar you owe is a dollar you don't control. It's a claim on your future income. It's someone else deciding what you do with your money before you even get it. And the more debt you have, the less control you have over your own life. I've met people, good people, smart people who are making $70,000, $80,000 a year and living like they're broke. Because between their mortgage, their car payments, their credit cards, their student loans, there's nothing left. They're making good money, but they're not free. They're trapped. So here's my advice. Avoid debt like it's poison. If you can't afford to pay cash for something, you can't afford it. Period. Now, I'm not talking about a house. I'm not even talking about a car if you need one for work. I'm talking about everything else. Credit cards, store financing, buy now, pay later, all that stuff. Just don't do it. Because here's what happens. You buy something for $100 that you can't afford. So you put it on a credit card. And then you pay $20 a month for the next year with interest and end up paying $150 for that $100 item. And the whole time, that payment is hanging over your head. That's $20 a month you can't use for anything else. Multiply that by 10 or 20 purchases, and suddenly you've got hundreds of dollars a month going out the door just to pay for the stuff you bought last year. That's insane. Here's a better way. If you want something you can't afford, save up for it. I know, that's not exciting, that's not immediate, that requires patience. But you know what else it does? It keeps you free. And it forces you to decide if you really want that thing. Because a lot of times, by the time you've saved up enough to buy it, you realize you don't actually want it anymore. The wanting was just temporary. It was just the impulse of the moment. And if you'd bought it with debt, you'd still be paying for something you don't even want anymore. Rule number 4, your most important asset isn't money, it's peace of mind. This took me a long time to understand. For years, I thought the goal was to make as much money as possible, to have the biggest bank account, to be able to afford the nicest things. But here's what I learned. You can have $1 million in the bank and still be miserable. You can have all the nice things and still not sleep at night. Because money doesn't buy peace. In fact, sometimes it does the opposite. I've seen people who make a lot of money but are constantly stressed about it, worried about losing it, worried about market crashes, worried about taxes, worried about people trying to take advantage of them. That's not peace. That's just a different kind of prison. Real wealth isn't about how much money you have. It's about how much peace you have. Can you sleep at night without worrying? Can you handle an unexpected expense without panicking? Can you make decisions based on what's right instead of what pays the most? That's real wealth. And here's the thing. You don't need to be rich to have that. You just need to live below your means, to have some money saved, to not be drowning in debt. When I finally paid off that second mortgage, when we finally got back on solid ground, we didn't have a lot of money. We were still pretty broke by most people's standards. But I could sleep at night. I could breathe. I could look at my bank statement without feeling sick to my stomach. And that was worth more than any amount of money. There's this idea in our culture that more money automatically equals more happiness. But that's not true. More money equals more happiness up to a point. The point where you're not constantly worried about survival, where you can pay your bills and handle emergencies without panicking. After that, more money just creates more complexity, more decisions, more things to worry about. I'm not saying you shouldn't try to make more money. I'm saying you shouldn't sacrifice your peace for it. Don't take a job that pays more if it's going to make you miserable. Don't buy a bigger house if it means you'll be stressed about the payment every month. Don't chase some lifestyle that looks good on the outside but leaves you anxious and exhausted on the inside. Protect your peace. Guard it. Make decisions that prioritize it. Because at the end of the day, that's what really matters. Rule number 5. Time is more important than money. This is the one I wish I'd understood when I was younger. Really understood. Not just heard it and nodded along, but actually lived it. When I was in my 30s and 40s, I worked constantly. Overtime, weekends, holidays, any extra shift I could get, I took it. Because I wanted the money. Wanted to give my family a better life. Wanted to build up our savings. Wanted to get ahead. And you know what happened? I missed everything. I missed my kids' baseball games, missed school plays, missed birthday parties, missed bedtime stories and Saturday morning pancakes and all those little moments that you can't get back. I was there physically when I was home, but I was exhausted, too tired to really be present, too stressed about work to really enjoy my family. And now my kids are grown. They've got families of their own. And I can't get those years back. The money I made is gone, spent. I can't even remember what most of it went to. But those moments I missed, I remember every single one. Every game I didn't see. Every dinner I wasn't there for. Every time my kid asked me to play and I said I was too tired. Those are the things that haunt me now. Here's what I wish someone had told me. You can always make more money. You can't make more time. Every hour you spend chasing money is an hour you're not spending on the things that actually matter. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't work hard. I'm not saying you shouldn't provide for your family. Of course you should. But there's a balance, and most of us get that balance wrong. We sacrifice time with our families for money. We sacrifice our health for money. We sacrifice our relationships, our peace, our joy, all for money. And then we get to the end of our lives and realize the money wasn't worth it. I'm 73 years old now. And you know what I'd give to have one more day with my kids when they were little? To play catch one more time, to read one more bedtime story. I'd give every penny I've got. But I can't. That time is gone. So here's my advice. Figure out what enough is. How much money do you actually need? Not want, need. To pay your bills, to have some savings, to handle emergencies, to live a simple, comfortable life. Figure that out. And once you hit it, Stop. Stop chasing more. Stop sacrificing your time and health and relationships for money you don't actually need. Because here's the truth. The difference between making 50,000 a year and making 100,000 a year is less than you think. It might mean a nicer car, a bigger house, fancier vacations, but it doesn't mean more happiness. It doesn't mean more peace. It doesn't mean a better life. What makes life better is time. Time with people you love. Time doing things you enjoy. Time to just sit on a porch with a cup of coffee and watch the sun come up. You can't buy that time back. Once it's gone, it's gone. So don't waste it chasing money. If I could go back and do it all over again, knowing what I know now, here's what I'd do differently. I'd start saving earlier, even just a little bit, even $50 a month, because compound interest is real, and the earlier you start, the more you'll have later. I'd avoid debt like the plague, would have driven that old car for another 5 years instead of buying a new one with payments, would have kept that small house longer instead of upgrading, would have said no to credit cards entirely. I'd spend less on stuff and more on experiences. All those things we bought, the furniture, the electronics, the clothes, I don't remember any of it. But I remember the few times we scraped together enough money to take a camping trip, to go to the lake, to do something as a family. I wish we'd done more of that. I talked to my wife about money, really talk about our goals, about our fears, about our plans. Instead of hiding things and making decisions alone like an idiot, I'd work less, would have turned down some of that overtime, would have said no to some of those extra shifts, would have been there for more dinners, more bedtimes, more of the moments that mattered. I'd compare myself less to others. So much of my financial stress came from trying to keep up with what other people had, trying to look successful, trying to prove I was doing well. All that did was make me miserable and broke. I'd focus on enough instead of more. Would have asked myself, do we actually need this? Or do we just want it because we saw someone else with it? Most of the time, the answer would have been the second one. I'd remember that money is a tool, not a goal. The goal is a good life, peace, freedom, time with people you love. Money is just one tool to help you get there. It's not the point. I can't go back and fix my mistakes. Can't undo the stupid decisions I made. Can't get back the time I wasted. But you can. You still have time. You can learn from my mistakes instead of making your own. And that's why I'm sitting here telling you all this. Look, I know this isn't the sexy stuff. Nobody gets excited about living below their means, about avoiding debt, about saving money instead of spending it. All the marketing, all the advertising, all the social media, it's all designed to make you want more, buy more, spend more. And it's really easy to get caught up in that, to think that's what success looks like, to think that's what happiness is. But I'm here to tell you it's not. Real success is sleeping well at night, being able to handle whatever life throws at you without panicking, having the freedom to make choices based on what's right instead of what pays the bills. Real happiness is time with people you love, work you find meaningful, simple pleasures you can actually enjoy because you're not constantly stressed about money. That's what matters. That's what lasts. The rest is just noise. So take these 5 rules, think about them, let them sink in, and then make better choices than I did. Don't wait until you're 73 and sitting on a porch full of regrets to figure this stuff out. Start now, today. Live below your means, stay out of debt, protect your peace. Value your time more than your money. And for God's sake, don't be stupid like I was and bet your family's future on some scheme that sounds too good to be true. Because it is too good to be true. It always is. Your future self will thank you, your family will thank you, and you'll sleep a whole lot better at night. All right, that's all I've got for you today. I'm going to sit here a while longer, finish this coffee, maybe light up a cigar, watch the morning unfold, and I hope you'll take what I've shared and really think about it. Really let it change how you see money, because it can change everything. I promise you that. Take care of yourself and remember you're going to be okay as long as you don't make the same mistakes I did. I'll see you in the next one.